Good evening, everybody. It's Tuesday evening. Welcome to Creative Genius TV on many of my pages. I forget how many I share this on now. I hope you've had an amazing day, and I hope that you are having a good week this week. I'm going to be totally honest with you tonight. I'm always honest with you, but I'm going to be totally honest with you. I was asleep on the couch about 10 minutes ago, and I've had to come up and rapidly put my hair in a ponytail because I looked like I'd been sleeping on the couch. So, I needed a bit of rest this afternoon. I don't know whether it's the dark nights coming in, whether it's the change in the weather, but feeling a little bit tired at the minute. I'm all right now because I've had a sleep. I'll be awake all night now. And I look like I'm coordinated and matching into the foliage at the back, don't I? Anyway, enough of that. Thank you for joining me tonight. And this evening, I'm going to be talking to you about how the lessons that you have in life, and I have in life, all of us have in life, can really help us when it comes to dealing with our business. And it's quite a broad statement, that, isn't it? But I think you can find lessons in every part of your journey and your story when you really, really look for them. And you can find how you can synergize that with what's going on in your business at any one time. So that's really what I wanted to talk to you about tonight. Obviously, as well, I'm going to read 2 chapters of my book this week because I forgot on last week's live to read chapter 2. So I'm going to read chapter 2 and 3 tonight. That's probably going to take me about 10 minutes. So I'll not keep the live going on for too long. Hopefully I'll say something tonight that will resonate with you and help you to really put in perspective where we are right now. And that's really the objective for me talking to you tonight, is to help you put things in perspective. So if you're watching live, say hi, but I can't see all the platforms. Let me know where you're watching from. I can only see comments on 2 pages, I think. So I'll come back to you at the end. I will reply at the end. And if you're watching on replay, hashtag replay and let me know where you're watching from. And please ask questions if you want to. So I want to take you back now to a time 10, 11 years ago. It was 2009. It was 2009, and I had experienced the worst year of my life. It had been a consistent number of things that had happened to me, horrific things, which you can read about in my book. I'm not going to tell you about that. But it was Christmas Eve, and I'd had huge losses in that year. And there was just me and the kids and the dogs, and it was Christmas Eve. And the kids were young. They were at that point 9 and 5. Dan was 5 and Becca was 9. And we were getting ready for Christmas. They were really excited at that age about Christmas, 5 and 9. They were talking about Santa and getting his a carrot for Rudolph and the cookies for Santa and the milk and everything. And we were getting really excited. It's all they had to look forward to. It's really funny because I asked them what they remembered about that year when I was writing my book. And they didn't remember anything bad. I did a pretty good job of pretending things were okay. They were fed well, no matter, even if we had no money. We used to make lentil soup and pancakes, and they think that is really luxurious food. And we had this Christmas, which I didn't have a lot of money for. And I'd had to literally eBay half of my house to get enough money to buy them presents for Christmas. And I did my best. So we were sitting on Christmas Eve and I thought, well, do you know what? It's been a hell of a year, but I've got my kids and I've got my dogs. And, you know, what else could possibly go wrong? I was feeling quite low, but, you know, Christmas always lifts your spirits. And we were sitting, getting ready. We were getting the living room all tidied and ready for Santa, and the tree was lovely, and there was some presents under it and some to come. And there was a knock on the door. So I thought, who could that be on Christmas Eve? And it was my landlord. We were renting an absolutely beautiful farmhouse at that point. We'd been in it for years. It was of a landscape of the great masters, a Turner landscape, absolutely beautiful, on a farm. Stunning. We loved it. Absolutely adored it. We'd been renting it for years. So we're at the end of this horrible year and there's a knock on the door. So I answer and it's my landlord and he's there with a big hamper for us, which was really nice. And I was really pleased. I invited him in and he gave me the hamper and he said, we're really sorry about everything that's happened to you, Mandy. And, we wanted to give you this, but also I need to let you know that I'm giving you a month's notice of moving out and you need to leave at the end of January. And I just looked at him. It's actually in the book, so I don't want to give you too much information. But it was like that blow, delivering the final blow in this series of unfortunate events where you don't think it can get any worse. And then all of a sudden it does. I was going to be made homeless and put out of this house that I really loved and the kids had grown up in and that they really loved after having lost all the other things that had happened to me that year. And why am I telling you this story? Because sometimes it can feel that it's just relentless and we've lost so much and that so many things have happened that are awful. And then something else happens and it feels like, oh my, can anything else really happen that is going to knock me? Why me? Why me is what we start to think. There's that moment, isn't there? And it's that moment that you choose to say either, why me? Or, okay, this is where I am and I am the change. And use that energy that you have, that anger, that feeling sorry for yourself to actually rebuild and refuel the future that you want. So that's why I wanted to say, whatever happens in life, it gives us fuel to move forward. That fight or flight that's triggered when you think nothing else can happen, but something does. And that's what happened to me. I was then at rock bottom, sitting on Christmas Eve, knowing that I was going to have to tell my children we were moving out of the house that they loved and not knowing where I was going to be. That was possibly the most memorable Christmas of my life. And I made it wonderful for the kids. And I didn't tell them till after the Christmas festivities and until I'd been onto the council. As soon as, everywhere was shut. There was no way I could find a house for almost a fortnight. So I had the odds stacked against me at that point. But when the odds are stacked against you, it's when sometimes you do your best work. So this is how I think it's related to work and related to the situation that we're in right now, folks. It feels like there are lots of people that are losing their jobs, being made redundant, having to rethink how they can support their families and feed their children. I've been there. And there are two ways you can go every time. You can give up and give in, or you can refuel and go forward and say, right, okay, how am I going to tackle this? When you find that resolve and that resilience that you go into fight or flight mode and you think, right, okay, I'm going to fight this and I'm going to move forward. And there's no way I am staying at rock bottom. And that's where I ended up. I pretended through Christmas and Boxing Day and I gave my kids the absolute best. But in my mind, I was formulating a plan of there's no way I'm going to stay at rock bottom. And no matter what's happened in COVID, what I would say to you is those are the moments that you've got to draw on. Those are the moments that I draw on when I think that things aren't going right. And I go back to basics because that's all I had was the very basics. I went back to basics of, okay, this is where I am. I need to find a house. I need to increase my income. I need to look at what I can do really quickly to support my family and make myself a very, very quick goals, a set of goals, a set of actions that can help me to move forward and not stay where I am. And it's really funny because 2 weeks ago, I did that in the business, not because things were really bad, they're actually not, but because when you've got time like we have at the moment, there is that moment, and I still feel that moment when things change. Change is a trigger for you feeling like you did in moments like that. And I sat down and I reviewed my entire business, and I had to take it back to basics of survival mode, how we get through where we are at the moment. And I reviewed my objectives for the business. I reviewed my strategy, my tactics, put a really strong plan together, and then how I was going to implement this plan, how I was going to implement the plan. And on the back of that, I've now got a quarter, 3 months worth of goals for my business. And that's how my life then relates to my business now. What I went through then and solved the problem then helps me in my business right now. And you have those skills because you have been through something in your life where you've needed to build resolve and resistance. And your job now is to draw on that knowledge. It's like computer says, switch it on. Take yourself back to the feelings of no way am I going to let this beat me. The feelings, the moment when you decided you were going to rebuild, you were going to lean into change, and you were going to do something to make sure that you didn't stay there because you have those skills already. So that's really where I wanted to go tonight with that. I can't, you know what, I could give you loads of tools. If anybody wants any of the tools that I've just used in the last couple of weeks to review my business, send me a direct message and I'll send you a message back, and I'll send you some of the tools that I've used. Nothing fancy. I don't use anything fancy because I always think you need to go back to basics. So there's a couple of more things I wanted to cover with you tonight. I'm going to read the chapters of my book very shortly to you. For those of you that were here 3 weeks ago, I read out chapter 1. I'm going to read chapters 2 and 3 tonight. But I have got some really exciting news today. And there's links in the comments either above or to the side to my book if you want to read my story of where I went to rock bottom. But there's also a link in there to a new book called Get Ready to Rise. Now, Get Ready to Rise, I was privileged to be there at the start of this amazing woman's dream, Sarah Noel, who wanted to create a community to support women who had not had a great time, who had been abused or marginalized. And Sarah came to us, I always say Sarah, it's Sarah, came to us in January with this fantastic idea. And I was a part of the idea and building it and putting it together, but had to, because of the death of my husband, had to move away from it. However, I have been one of the co-authors in the new book, Get Ready to Rise. And I have to say it's amazing. So there's a link to take you there in the comments, wherever they are. So that you can go and have the first chapter and create your vision plan. So it's a little sneak peek into what's coming in the book, and it's absolutely amazing. And it's just amazing to be part of a project like that in such a time like this that supports women. And actually, it's to raise funds to help women, not to make money for anybody. So it's an amazing project. I needed to mention that tonight because it has been everywhere today on my social media. So I don't want to miss out talking about that. I do, however, want to read you chapters 2 and 3 of the book. So what I'm reading you tonight is the start of this journey where I lost everything 11 years ago, where I went from having a 6-figure salary to losing absolutely everything. And I fictionalized the story in this book, The Life I Won. And you could categorize it as fiction. You could categorize it as self-help, self-development. It's both. But because I've fictionalized it, it's in the fiction section, which is really harder to get a #1 author status than anywhere else, I have to say, when you're on Amazon. This book is currently being republished by Austin Macaulay, and I am currently writing book 2, which is called The Life I Created, which tells the story of how I rebuilt my life. So if you're interested, get your cup of coffee, put your feet up, and relax, and I will read you chapters 2 and 3. Not before I've had a drink. So chapter 2 is called March, and it's called Love. Everything was black, not just black, but a dark, inky black that felt claustrophobic and bottomless. Silence. She could see nothing and hear nothing. It was eerie, lonely, and yet welcoming at the same time. Squinting and concentrating really hard, she could just make out a pinprick of light. Blinking and refocusing, the light seemed like it was coming towards her, gradually taking on size and substance. It felt warm on her face, comforting like the softest blanket, and soothing like her mother's embrace. All of her fears and negative thinking left her and disappeared into the black backdrop. She felt loved, wanted, at peace. As the light drew closer, she could just make out the silhouette of a person. Recognition sparked in her, but could not be placed immediately. Closer, warmer, more beautiful, and more familiar. "Grandad," she said, "is that you?" "It certainly is, our Mand. What sort of mess have you created for yourself?" "What do you mean? I don't know where I am." "You are here, and so am I. So how shall we spend our time?" "But you are dead. Does that mean I'm dead?" she asked. "That, our Mand, is entirely up to you." His voice was soothing and made her feel at ease with the world. There was no longer fear and negativity. It had been replaced with pure love. "I still don't understand." Still confused, she immediately loved this place and had always loved this man, but could not fathom what was happening to her. Was she dead? Was she dreaming? What exactly had happened to her? "It's no use trying to work this out, our kid. It is what it is, and you are where you are. Now, what would you like to talk about?" I don't know," she managed to stutter. "Now, that is not the girl I know. You always knew what to say and would never stop saying it." Mandy smiled. He knew her so well. He was her paternal granddad, George, or Grandad Whiskers, as they fondly called him as children, due to his unusual beard. He was always jolly and loving with a Santa laugh. Time with him had always been a blast, from playing in the sand pit he had made for them to exploring his sheds, which were like Aladdin's caves. Deciding to just follow her gut, she managed to speak. "I've missed you so much." "I know you have, sweetheart, but what is more important is, what are you going to do?" "About what?" "About this." She thought for a minute. Was he talking about where she was or what had happened? Wait a minute, what had happened? She remembered being in the car and then the magnificent beast that appeared out of nowhere. "Did I kill the deer?" "No, it was not his time," he reassured her. "Is it my time?" "It's not like you to ask closed questions, so ask me something I might care to answer. We don't have much time." "Why am I here?" she managed. "That's better. You are here because this morning that is what you wished for." "I didn't." "Oh, but you did. You could no longer see your purpose. You no longer saw what you had and how precious it is." She thought again. He was right. Her thinking had been so negative. She had felt like there was no point in keeping going. What had been the underlying reason for her thinking this way, she wondered. "But I do realize what I have. I love my children. Please don't take me away from them. I'll do anything to get back to them. Anything," she begged. "Anything?" "Yes, I said that." "Well, then maybe I can give you another chance to appreciate what you have." "You can do that?" "No, not me, but I think I can influence the powers that be. Would you be up for a challenge?" "Yes, anything. Wait here. I'll be right back." No, don't leave me. I love having you here. The thought of him leaving her again suddenly filled her with grief and dread. I left a long time ago, but for now, I will be gone for just a second. She sat alone again in the dark, yet she could see. She could see the faces of her children, Becca and Dan. They were beautiful and she loved them so much. How could she have thought that her life was so meaningless, even for a second? Vowing to herself to never think like that again, no matter what was happening around her, a cool breeze tickled her arm. At that moment, George returned. I have a challenge for you, it is agreed. You will return to your life, but you will not be perfect as you were. You experienced some physical trauma and your body needs to heal. You will experience a series of events. You will be given no information, no timescales, and no help. You have to overcome these events in order to win your life back. Can you do this? Of course, I will do anything. I know you will do anything, but can you do this? I can. He was gone. It was black. I am cold. She heard the sound of sirens and saw the orange flashing lights. Chapter 3, Realization. Can you hear me, love? Yes, Mandy said, I can hear you. She felt the paramedic trying to open the door of her car. It was jammed shut and needed some leverage. He checked her breathing, pulse, and did a visual check to make sure that there were no bleeding injuries that required immediate attention. The car was wrecked. She could see the crumpled metal of the bonnet touching the windscreen. It was a tangled mess. Can you feel this, love? He asked. Yes, I can, but it hurts. She winced with the shooting pain in her legs and up her back. She knew that this was not going to be good. You just stay still and let us move you onto this board. I'm going to give you some pain meds. Sharp scratch. She felt the needle pierce her skin, then floated onto the stretcher. The ambulance journey was like a weird roller coaster ride, and her thoughts were out of control. She could hear talking, but it sounded a long way away. Soon enough, feeling a lot more lucid, she was being moved onto a hospital bed. We are taking you for an x-ray, love, the doctor said. We need to make sure nothing is broken. Okay, was all she could manage. The x-ray machine was clumsy and so was the nurse. Everything was hurting. The pain in her back and legs was like a drill, constant and annoying. I wonder what I've done, she said to herself. And all of a sudden she remembered the visit from her granddad, the beautiful place and the deal that had been made. That is it, she thought. I've been given a second chance and I'm back to my life. I need to change things. I need to make big, big changes. That thought stayed with her and she started to consider exactly what changes were needed in her life. Her children were perfect. The dogs were also like her children. She loved them dearly and their care was never a problem to her. John, her husband, came into her head and the feeling was strangely indifferent. Why was that then? Back on the ward, there were bandages all over her, a cast on her leg and a drip in her arm. Her injuries were severe but not life-threatening. The recovery would take about 4 months, and there would be a need for some physio, but that was achievable. Just as she was lost in thought, her husband John turned up with the children, looking worried and drawn. Was it worry? He almost looked more harassed, like this was an inconvenience, or was she seeing things that weren't there? Who called you? She said. The ambulance crew found my number in your phone and rang while they were bringing you here. Becca and Dan started to climb on the bed to hug her when John snapped at them and told them to get off. It was aggressive, impatient, and totally unnecessary. Glaring at him, a question came to her. Why was she with him? That thought had never occurred to her before, but at that moment when he had snapped so quickly and nastily at her beloved children, it occurred to her now. Was this her first challenge? Was she going to look at everyone and everything and wonder the same thing? It started to dawn on her that the challenges ahead may well be more difficult than she'd initially thought. Looking again at the man that she had spent all of those years with, there was anger in his face. It wasn't just anger, it was something more. For now, she decided to ignore it, but made a mental note. So for those of you that are still listening, that was chapters 2 and 3 of my book. And the story goes from really the bare bones of it right into me losing everything and then finding something special. So if you want to buy the book, the link is in the comments. If you want to have a look at the Get Ready to Rise, the link is in the comments. Thank you for being here tonight. I am going to sign off now and say that I'll be back next Tuesday, the same time, same place, with chapter 4 of the book and more business information to help you with where you are right now and where we are right now to keep moving forward. So I'll see you next week. Lots of love. Bye for now.